Another important issue that comes up in a lot of the manifestos for these different populist parties is the environment, is green policy, and we have seen the green parties obliterated in they've done very badly, let's put it that way, in the European parliamentary elections and the results. How important is that? I mean, immediately it comes to mind Germany's insane nuclear policy to close down their nuclear plants, and then they're just importing nuclear energy now from France. But obviously that hurts the pockets of working people, of young people, because they have to pay more for more expensive energy. How significant a part is environmentalism, is climate catastrophizing part of this populist movement?
I think it's very significant. Only a few years ago, every academic under the sun was telling us that we were going to have a green surge in European politics, largely because most academics support the Greens or radical left movements. So they were very supportive of what was happening. It was quite obvious that this was going to end in election disaster, because the policies that many Green parties have been bringing forward are not realistically anchored in the life experiences of ordinary voters. Net zero is a great example of that. When you're basically asking people to pay more for energy, for driving their cars around London with the ULEZ charges, when you're imposing net zero type taxation and fiscal costs on people because of a policy that is much more strongly celebrated among the elite class, there are going to be political consequences, and we're now seeing those consequences across much of Europe. Working people have been hit on multiple fronts: inflation from COVID, the furlough, the lockdowns. The cost of living has gone through the roof at the same time as the elites have imposed this net zero project on everybody else top down. There's a great example of this here in the UK. We had a local council that was investing millions of pounds in expanding net zero. So actually wanted to go net zero 10 years before the rest of the country. And at the same time, as local council left-wing elites were pushing these policies, the local library was closed down. Core public services couldn't be delivered. Old people weren't getting meals on wheels, where they get food taken to their house. It's a great example of the luxury belief class advocating policies that bring them benefits, that make them feel good, that give them a sense of moral righteousness, but which antagonize everybody else who actually has to live with the consequences of those decisions. And this is where I think we are with a lot of the green movements in Europe. Don't forget too, politically, their support is concentrated in the big cities, university towns. So unlike the national populists, it is harder often for Green parties to build a very big, durable, wide coalition of support of the kind that we've seen in places like Eastern Germany, or places like we've seen in the east coast of England, or the industrial heartlands in France. It's more difficult for Green parties to sustain themselves over the longer term. But of course, energy is part of it. But at the core of all of these parties is the immigration population nexus. That is what ultimately this is all about. The more immigration, the better these parties will do. That is basically the bottom line of what's going on here.